This is getting ridiculous. After a breakout season, RFA defenseman Dylan Samberg is of course looking for a payday on his next contract. He has filed for salary arbitration, and we have just received a new report discussing what he is looking for on his next contract and of course what the Winnipeg Jets are hoping to pay him. We're going to dive into this. We're going to talk about Dylan Samberg's next contract and why this needs to get done as soon as possible. But before we do hop into the video, it looks like about 84.1% of people watching the videos here on Jets Digest were not subscribed to the channel. I'd highly suggest you throw a subscription. We're talking Jets all throughout the offseason, and a subscription is the best way to make sure you're staying informed. So let's hop into the video here today. We're going to dive over to a tweet from Elliot Friedman where he tweets out this morning on July 28th, "We have a arbitration filing for Dylan Samberg. He can only be given a one-year deal as he is eligible for unrestricted free agency next summer." He goes on to say that the Jets have requested to pay him $2.5 million, and the player, Dylan Samberg, has requested for $6 million. And then he adds in at the end of his tweet, "Remember, these filings are strategic and can be settled until the hearing begins." So, let's talk about this. The biggest thing here, and the reason why this contract needs to get done as soon as possible, is we want to avoid going to arbitration, because once we're there, the longest a contract can be given to Dylan Samberg at this point is a one-year deal, and after that, he will be a free agent, an unrestricted free agent, and can go to any team he wants. So, when we look at these numbers here, $2.5 million is very, very low. It's very interesting that the Jets are going in for this, and $6 million is an amount I'd be happy to pay Dylan Samberg, especially on a long-term deal. I think he's super duper important to this Winnipeg Jets team, and having a young, stud defenseman who can play in defensive and offensive situations, super duper good. Let's hop over to this other tweet. Some more context to give from Murat Atesh, the insider that we have here in Winnipeg. He says this on Dylan Samberg: "Lots of interest in a long-term deal. I don't see why it wouldn't get done. That said, a lot of people assume it will be easy. In practice, it's tough to price such a positive defensive impact. Pay Samberg for points and time on ice, and you won't pay him enough. Big day." So, right now, it is July 28th, and we are 2 days away from the official arbitration meeting between the Jets and Dylan Samberg. So, they have about 2 more days to get this done, and then once that they go to arbitration, they have to settle on a one-year deal. And Murat here points out the reason why this is probably a tougher contract to decide on a number for, because Dylan Samberg is a player who provides a lot of impact in ways that are not just points. We can hop over to his points, his stat sheet from this past year. He played 60 games, he had 6 goals, 14 assists for 20 points. But as I said, his value is not provided on the score sheet. His value is provided being a, not necessarily just a stay-at-home defenseman, but a two-way defenseman, a guy who can, retrieve pucks in your own end, make a solid first pass, and get the puck out of your end. And also on top of that, he plays the PK. He's very good at it. I'm a big fan of his. We can even hop over to his J Fresh chart here we have right up in front. Again, this, if you've never seen these before, this projects just some value in regards to his advanced stats. So stuff that doesn't just score up on this. Stuff that doesn't just show up on the score sheet. And you can see here that Dylan Samberg is at an 84 percentile of WAR. And in general, blue is good here. You want to be up as close to 100% as possible. And the number just says what percentile he's in. So he's in the top 5th of the league in regards to the amount of value he provides to his team. You can see here he generates a lot of offense, despite the fact that he's not a point getter. I think a lot of that value comes down to the fact that when he's on the ice, he's able to get the puck out of his end with a solid pass, go into the other end, and provide, just being a solid distributor of the puck. He's fantastic defensively. He was super duper important for the Winnipeg Jets, especially this past playoff run. I'm going to look at that Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues when Josh Morrissey gets hurt. Dylan Samberg had to take on a big role that game. And always has, a pretty strong and big role being in the top 4 of the Winnipeg Jets, playing with Neil Pionk, providing some stability there, and that's where I think a lot of Dylan Samberg's value comes. You have Neil Pionk, who's been signed for 7 more years, and I really think that having Dylan Samberg right next to him, if it were up to me, I'd have this guy signed tomorrow for, $6 million times 8. Hell, I'd go up to 6.5, over 8 years, because at the end of the day, the value on this contract, with every single year that goes by, the salary cap is going up. Right now, it's 95.5 mil. Next year, it's supposed to be 104. And then the year after that, it's supposed to be, I think, 113.5. So every single year that you get Dylan Samberg signed for more, you're just going to get more and more value for him. We can even hop over to a tweet that came from Dom Luszczyszyn, who is the stat guy for The Athletic, and he projects the contract here and discusses the value that he would provide. He mentions that the midpoint between 2.5 and 6 mil, which in general, if it does go to arbitration, usually they end up signing basically right in the middle. So if he were to sign for 4.25 mil, you can already see on this chart here that the market value for a guy like Dylan Samberg would be up at $6.5 million a year. So signing him to a deal of 4.25 would, yes, be, of course, under that market value. You'd get a lot of surplus value out of him, but you have to remember that's only for 1 year. And then right after that, he can go ahead and move on to the next team that he wants. But as we've said, we have heard a lot of rumors in regards to him being interested in a longer-term deal with the Winnipeg Jets. And even further to Dom's point here, he says that Dylan Samberg is treated as, like a number 4 defenseman, despite the fact that he's probably closer to the second best defenseman on the Jets. After proving himself last year in a tough minute role, I would say he's a very strong chance he's well above that. A long-term deal in the 5s would be great, and even in my opinion, a long-term deal in the 6s and the low 6s would be fantastic for the Winnipeg Jets and would do a lot for lengthening the window that we're in. So this is going to be a tough one for the Winnipeg Jets to figure out, especially considering the fact that there is a time deadline attached to this. Ideally, like I said, I would personally go and sign Samberg for as long as possible. I think he's a phenomenal defenseman, especially defensively. He's able to eat up those minutes. On top of all of that, he's also able to, I think that his offensive, abilities aren't really something that the Jets have tapped into. I think that he's got a solid shot. He plays with Neil Pionk, so he doesn't really get that opportunity to contribute all that much. And with Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk already in the power play spots, I don't see him really getting a chance there. But I think he's a phenomenal defenseman. I want this guy on my team for as long as possible. I know that he's a good buddies with Cole Perfetti, so that would also do well to make sure that you're keeping this core of younger players together. And it'll be very interesting to see where this contract comes out at. You can even add in some more information if you really want to. I'll bring it up this one little chart I wanted to mention before. This is a microstat game score provided by Corey Schneider. Not the goalie, he's a stat guy. But the main thing here, it might be difficult to see, unfortunately, but this is a chart that talks about shots, passes, zone entries, and zone exits. And if you can see, it's very tough to see, unfortunately, but right at the top of the list for the Winnipeg Jets are Kyle Connor and Dylan Samberg. And this was throughout the entire series with the St. Louis Blues. Again, just to go and show his value is not going to be something you see on the score sheet. It's always going to be something in the, more nuanced, details. This guy has great details. He's a big defenseman. He's good on the PK. He's basically everything the Winnipeg Jets need from a defensive standpoint, and at the same time, he contributes offensively by making sure the puck gets out of the zone and the Winnipeg Jets can control the puck, get into the other zone, and get their scoring chances off. But regardless, that's going to be it for me here today. I really hope that I'm coming to you guys with a video within the next day or two expressing how happy I am to get Dylan Samberg signed. If that doesn't happen, I'll be here to break down what the arbitration ends up being, and we'll discuss it all together. Throw a like on this video. Make sure you guys have a good rest of your summer, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.